Youorns. Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the Orns 10-minute take on Watford 2, Birmingham City 0 at the Vic. And yes, it was a final return to winning ways after almost 5.5 weeks, just about, since Watford got their last win. And that was, of course, the very first day of the season for them. A Saturday in August, early August it was. Watford destroyed Queen's Park Rangers inside the first half by a score of 4-0. But since then, they had found the going rather difficult, up and down, a bumpy ride for Watford. They had gone 3 games after that without scoring, and they ended up finally getting goals against Coventry 2 weeks ago. But the All-Star break, or I should say the international break, did Watford the world of good, it seemed, because in the second half of this game, at least, Watford came back very strong and electrified as they looked and searched for a way to get past the Birmingham side that had been previously unbeaten in this season in the Championship, a team that found themselves in 4th place in the table early doors, but playing very well, getting lots of signings during the off-season and changing a lot of the personnel at the side. But John Eustace is, of course, remaining as the manager, despite the fact there have been lots of rumors around him going to Scotland to manage there with Glasgow Rangers. John Eustace, the former Watford captain, returning to Vicarage Road last season, was not a happy return for him and Birmingham, as Watford won that game 3-0. But there's similarities between that game and the one that was played today at the Vic, because in that game, Birmingham City controlled a lot of the game, especially the first half of the game. Lots of opportunities, but they could not cash in on them. And that was the story of this game from a Birmingham perspective. They did not cash in on the opportunities that they had. They had a lot of them in the first half. Birmingham came into this game with a lot of intent. They looked very, very lively in the first half. They looked like they had a lot of imagination about them going forward, and they were stoutly organized in defense. Watford were the ones who were struggling to get to grips with the game, and by the time they did work their way into the game, it was roughly the 20 or 25-minute mark of the first half. Watford had hit a post before that through Ryan Porteous, who had an outstanding international break in which he scored a goal for Scotland and acquitted himself very well against England. But after Ryan Porteous struck the post with a shot early on, Watford really didn't have a lot to say in that first half, but they kept prodding and they kept searching, and at halftime it was 0-0. But in the second half, Watford really got going. I'm sure words were said by Val Ishmael at halftime to his charges, and they got out there and absolutely changed things around for themselves. And the substitutions that Val made also were very important to this game, but none more important than Daniel Bachmann, who is the Orns man of the match. After much trial and tribulation, going between Ryan Porteous and Daniel Bachmann. Porteous had a good game again today, but I really do look at the likes of Daniel Bachmann, the captain of the side, who has been maligned by a lot of Watford fans. I've certainly critiqued him at some times, not on any personal basis, but for his play at times. He looked very nervy in the sweeper system that Val has employed today as well, but he came to the occasion prepared in the second half, 2 point-blank saves in very quick succession to rescue Watford at that time, and Birmingham going forward in a rare foray from Birmingham in the second half, who hardly troubled Daniel Bachmann for much of this game, really, but particularly in the second half, despite playing pretty well. But the thing for Birmingham is those 2 saves meant the end for them, because Watford ended up really turning up the gears and going through the gears in the second half, which they completely controlled. And the other thing that I found impressive about the way Watford went about their business in the second half of this game is that they never allowed themselves to stop believing that they could get something out of the game. We've seen many years, certainly many seasons recently, where Watford players would hang their heads and settle for the 0-0. But not this bunch, not today at least. Watford got the job done. And of course, after those saves, were the big turning point. Daniel Bachmann, for me, again, the Orns man of the match. The other key part was obviously the sending off of the Birmingham City player. Birmingham, I think, today let themselves down. Shocking lack of discipline from them. And Keith Stroud, who is a Luton Town supporting referee, was giving out cards like Christmas. It wasn't undeserved cards, though, for Birmingham. Watford perhaps should have had a few more cards. I'll certainly admit that. And they were fortunate not to get them from Keith Stroud. but Watford did deserve to win this game in the end. Why? Because they took their chances more than Birmingham did. Watford, I thought, played well the second half. They kept searching, as I said. The subs were very important to this game. Kone, I thought, was very bright and lively. I liked the attitude of Georgie coming down that left flank. And of course, you had the likes of Jamal Lewis. I thought had a really good Watford debut at left back coming off the bench. I thought he acquitted himself very well indeed. A very good acquisition so far, at least for Watford. His first minutes as a Watford player, and he certainly did not harm himself. I also like the way that this lot played, this second half unit and the unit off the bench, I thought really did a good job persisting and pushing for that all-important goal. Ryan Andrews, another of the subs who, of course, figured big in this game. Watford had to leave it late. You saw in the 91st minute of this game, Rajovic scored what would be his third goal in 2 matches for Watford, 3 goals in 2 starts. And I think that that is really good stuff. You want to see a striker scoring. So I like the fact that Rajovic, who was a creator today, tried to get Martins involved. Martins narrowly missed out on a really nice cross from Rajovic in that second half, but Martins did not have his best day. Neither did Asprilla, who came off the bench, not quite coordinated enough. And I think the end product let Watford down for much of this game. They just needed that moment of quality that really lacked, I thought, but they got it together finally in that 91st minute, I should say. A looping header from Rajovic just past the outstretched arms of the Birmingham goalkeeper, John Ruddy. We love John Ruddy. We scored a number of big goals against him. You remember, of course, 4 years ago in the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley when he was in goal for Wolves, another Midlands team. And Watford getting the all-important winning goal there in the 91st minute, leaving it late, but better late than never. And then just a few minutes after that, Ryan Andrews, that man, that local lad, he's been a Watford lad since, geez, knee-high to a grasshopper. And he has been in the academy, had been Watford under 10s. He was at 8 or 9 years old when he joined Watford. And he's been around for Watford, and he's come up big time with a goal. A really good goal, got deflected in, but it was a shot on target and the goal counted as it should. Watford up 2-0, and that was after 96 minutes. So Watford controlling the game. Really the turning points, Daniel Bachmann, most importantly, with those 2 double saves, point blank, that I think really had that gone in for Birmingham, they could have gone on and probably scored a second. But Birmingham did not help themselves either, getting a man sent off. And Watford seized the initiative for real after that. And I think just kept on going until they knocked down the door that Birmingham had so stoutly held closed with their defending and got these 2 goals. Now, look, Watford still have some things to do in this particular game after the film and they watch all of that. Got to really realize that their defensive capabilities are very, very frail indeed. We know that that's a very vulnerable point of Watford, their defense. The Daniel Bachmann sweeper system entry from Val is not coming into gear yet, but it will get there, I think. Daniel Bachmann's got to be given a lot of credit today for his performance, even though, again, he didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot, but he did when it was his time was cut and his time was there and his number was called. Daniel Bachmann came up big time, and he must be acknowledged for that. And also, I like the way that these players never gave in. Rajovic never gave up. Ryan Andrews kept going, you know. James Morris, who started, well, again, I still think Morris needs a bit more time, but I expect Jamal Lewis will probably start the game Wednesday against West Bromwich Albion, another Midlands team. 3 in a row now that Watford will have played by the time we get to Wednesday. But back to today, Watford FC, the team for you and me, got the win, and that is a very good thing. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.